Hola.
Hello, everyone. I'm Mariela Condorena. Thank you all for finding time and visiting today's webinar. I'm really happy. I know that this is our last webinar, but I know it will be exciting and very, very useful for us. Now, continue. Remember, please, that you can follow us in our network, Facebook. In Facebook, we have more than 16,000 members. You can join us in WhatsApp or YouTube, or you can visit our Google sites. Before we start, let me explain how you can talk to us during the webinar with some instructions. Please consider these instructions to participate in today's webinar. Please type your questions in the comment section with your name and place of living. The answers to your questions and comments will be replied by our guest speaker at the end of the webinar in the question time section. And remember that when finishing the webinar, we will share a link for you to have access to the exit ticket, which will be available for 20 minutes. And you may send in your question at any time during the presentation. We will collect this and address them during the question and answer section at the end of today's presentation. Now it's time to know our guest speaker. Please, Mr. Kurt Vilela, could you introduce her, please?
Of course. Mrs. Oyola is an experienced English teacher who holds a master's degree in education with a concentration in curriculum design. Fanglish General Manager, who participated in the design of the National Curriculum for Basic Education and English program. A big round of applause for Mrs. Kristel Oyola. You are very welcome, dear speaker. The audience is all yours.
Thank you, Kurt. Hi, hello, everyone. Well, I guess I was already presented, just a little bit redundant in saying my name again. Remember, my name is Kristel, and I will be here with you sharing a little bit of important information regarding competences in reading, right? It's very important nowadays, especially because of pandemic, to be very focused on being competent. But there are some inconveniences because, I mean, the competence approach has been implemented for many years, but there are still some questions, some doubts about it, right? So let's try to solve these questions, this issue we have about it. And Kurt, I don't know if I'm able to share. Yes, am I? Okay, thank you. Okay, so let's start. Okay, here we are. So, developing competent readers. Remember that the aims for today are, first, to recognize the importance of inferencing and interpreting when reading, and acknowledge the process of reflective reading, right? Something that I would like to highlight is that reading is to the mind what exercise is to the body. Remember that the two important inputs we have to receive information is speaking and reading. In reading, you have the opportunity to go back to the information, to revise information, to reflect deeper on the information. So there are, I mean, this important source of information sometimes is not exploited in the right way. So let's try to do it this time, and let's start right away, okay? So I would like to start first saying that there are some important things that readers do while reading, but a competent reader always does specific things, right? The very first part, the very first thing is before reading, this reader, this competent reader, comes to a text with a purpose. There is a reason for reading. Maybe it's just pleasure. Maybe it's just getting informed. But this person has a specific purpose for reading. The other important thing is that this reader, competent reader, sizes up the text, which means like go very fast over the text in order to understand the length, the register, the style, the format, you know, but it's very, very quick just to get like, what is going to be this about? Yes. So that is why the number 3 is leaves the preview with an idea. So before reading, it's not like a competent reader go directly to the text. First, the reader is like exploring the title, exploring the visual aids around. It's trying to predict what's going to be in the text. Yeah, so that's going to be part of the motivation. Academic literature says that motivation is 80% useful for reading comprehension. If you are not motivated to read the text, you will not understand it well. Yes? Okay, so during the text, what does a competent reader do? Well, he or she stops to think about particular ideas. You know, there are some ideas that maybe he or she is not understanding well, so this person make a pause and then try to reflect and then go back to the text and keep reading. Yes, remember, I am not saying that this person is stopping on words. It's not stopping on grammar structures. It's stopping on ideas. Okay, don't forget that, ideas. Yes. This competent reader is also conscious of the implicit information. This person knows that not everything is explicit, right? There are some things that he can discover while reading because the author has an intention, because certain word has certain connotation. Yeah, so there are, I mean, this reader is conscious of it. Yes, it's not because it's the text, I just read it like with a poker face person. It's like that he or she knows that there is some emotion, feelings involved in this text. Yes. The other thing that good readers do is reread and go back, search of text. Yes, it's like, as I was saying from the very beginning of the webinar, I was explaining you that when you have these two main sources of obtaining information, it's speaking and reading, but reading has the great advantage of letting readers to go back to the text and analyze again the information. Of course, during speaking, you can ask some questions to clarify it, but it's not going to be, say, in the exactly same way, and maybe some information get lost. This never happens in reading, right? And the last part during reading is monitors when they are having problems reading. This is a very important thing because, for example, and maybe that might happen to some of you or to all of you probably, when you're reading, sometimes you feel that you are not understanding anything. So what do we usually do is make a stop and start again. Yes. And well, sometimes when you are tired, that happened to me sometimes actually, when I'm very, very tired, I rather stop and start reading all over again to really understand what I'm reading. And this monitoring is quite important because it's a way that the reader is conscious of the strategy. When you know that you are reading without understanding, it's like you are not reading because you are not obtaining information. You are not understanding any kind of information from the text. So being conscious of this and trying to monitor and dealing with these issues and problems while reading is a very important thing competent readers do. And after reading, the competent readers usually or all the time thinks more about it, think not over and over again, but over a little bit of the text and the information, because this person is reflected on it, is trying to evaluate it, is expressing an opinion, if it's good, if it's bad, is there something missing, how would I feel in that situation? And this person is like thinking over the information again and again. Yes. So remember, a competent reader usually is focused on these three important stages: before, during, and after. Before, because he knows that he needs an idea of this text to feel motivated to read it. And in the second part is like using all the resources he has or she has to really understand, being aware of the implicit information, go back to the text when it's necessary, make some stops and restart when it's necessary, and monitor when your strategy, when your reading strategy is not working. And finally, evaluating the information and reflect it on it. What am I describing this? I mean, okay, that's fine, but I am not, I am not, me as a teacher, I am a good reader, but I want my students be good readers. I am sharing this information with you because in order to shape good readers, you need to be aware of these important points. Yes. And now, and please guys, help me with this one. I am sharing with you a link in the chat with quizzes. Yes. Can you find quizzes? I know that there are some questions about the regular strategies we have learned from ages, and don't worry, we're working on it. Don't worry about it. Please click on quizzes. Yes, everybody click on quizzes. If you cannot make it directly to the app, do not worry. What we usually do is to interact through the chat. So you can write in the chat and write your answer in the chat. So you are participating. I'm reading. So don't worry. Okay, I'm paying attention to everything you are expressing this time. Okay, so now I am opening the quizzes. I know that you are all there waiting for me. Yes. Okay, let's see. Sorry, it's a little bit slow. Internet is like this sometimes. Yes. Okay, so it's uploading. Wait a minute. I'm going to. Okay, so here we are. If you click on it, you will see that you can see this part. I'm sorry. Okay, you can see that you can see this game. So I will click on start, and you will have these beautiful pictures. Remember that quizzes is quite similar to Kahoot, yes, but actually this lets you to do many other stuff. Okay, wait a minute. I will. Okay, no music because it's going to be very picky. Okay, we have just 60 seconds. And now it's time to relay the information. When we say a competent reader leaves the preview with an idea, what are we talking about? Inferring and interpreting, skimming, prediction, scanning. Can you tell me the answers here? Can you tell me the answers in the chat? I will be reading your answers, okay? I will be reading your answers. Let's see. Some of you have saying easy peasy. Okay, let's see if it's easy peasy. Okay, let me know. I'm reading your answers, okay? Let's see. Okay, it's time to finish. Okay, Jocelyn Palomino has said it's prediction, so I will click on prediction and we will next. And the answer is correct. Very good. Remember, it's very important, the motivation part in a session, right? So we need to make these predictions to motivate in a way to students. Second question, a competent reader is conscious of the implicit information. What does it mean? Is it skimming? Is that prediction? Is that inferring and interpretation? Is that scanning? What is that? What do you think is it? Okay, I have some questions here. Kevin is saying inferring and interpreting. I wrote interpretation, right? It's not interpretation. Okay, let's see the answers. Time's up. Okay, inferring and interpreting. Okay, I'm sorry, I mistype. Okay, so I click on it. Ready? And yes, very good. Okay, that's perfect. Okay, question number 3. When we say a competent reader rereads and back search of the text, what is it? Skimming, inferring and interpreting, prediction, scanning? What do you think it is? Okay, I'm waiting. When the reader reread and back search of text. Okay, I have some inferring, some skimming. Okay, so the answer is skimming for most of you. Let's see if it's right. Yes, very good. That's perfect. Okay, and the last but not the least, when we say a competent reader sizes up the text, what does it mean? What does it mean? Let's see. Okay, a competent reader sizes up the text. What is it? What is that? Inferring, skimming, scanning? I don't know. There are many different answers. What do you think? Clustering. Interesting. Scanning. Okay. Okay, I guess like more people have said scanning, so I will click on it. Yes. And the answer is correct. Yes, of course. Scanning. Yes. Very good. Very good. That was perfect. El fin. That was said. Okay, let's see how many people play today. Oh, okay, sorry. I just play as a guest. So I hope if you play the game, it was interesting for you. Okay, let me switch to my presentation again. Okay, so remember this important information that we have been recalling, okay? Some of you, while I was speaking about the competent reader, you were mentioning Miss and the skimming and the scanning. And remember, no matter the name you add to the action is to do the action. Yes, remember, prediction is very important. We usually explore the title, explore the pictures, the visual aids that usually go with the text. Yes, we have usually go through the text very fast to, as I was saying you, to noting some important features like how long is the text, is it informal, is it formal, is it a letter, is it an email, you know? So these general ideas are very important for you to feel like motivated or to be aware of what kind of text you are about to read. Yes, during the text you have different activities, right? You have skimming, you have deducing, but this is something that we will be analyzing now. Okay, remember, we have been talking about skimming, scanning, predicting, inferring, and interpreting. And now we have the national curriculum. And the national curriculum is usually asking us to do something different because they say obtiene información. Okay, infiere, interpreta. Okay, at least it's something that we know, but obtiene información and reflexiona y evalúa. I don't know if it's like the same, is it different? I mean, we're English, we're different, you know, we're not supposed to be treated in the same way. Yes, okay, so that is why I started as a competent reader. When we're talking about competent readers, there are some specific actions we do to be able to read deeply, consciously, and reflectively. Yes, so no, as I said before, no matter how you call it, the idea is not to forget the action, not to forget the process, okay? That's very, very important. So let's try to analyze now, how can we connect the national curriculum with ELT word, you know, and the competent readers, because it's like 3 different words. Are they different words or just one with different names? Yes. Okay, so let's try to analyze together. Okay. Now we have Mentimeters. So could you please, guys, help me with this because I'm very picky today. I want you to interact a little bit because then it's like the reflection and the reflective part. So now it's going to be a fun time to try to collect some of your ideas. Okay, so please, could you please share, okay, the Mentimeter link? Yes, the Mentimeter link. Okay, I will be waiting for the Mentimeter link for the teachers while I will be opening the Mentimeter. Yes. Okay. So you will be seeing this information. Yes. You will be seeing this information. Click on the Mentimeter. It was shared already in the chat. Yes, could you please check the Mentimeter? Yes. Okay. I can see that I already have some answers, so that's great. Okay, so now I'm going to share the results I'm obtaining. Yes. Okay, it says retrieve the information, which means obtiene información. You know what is in the national curriculum. Retrieve information is related to. Look at the numbers. They go up and down, right? Up and down, up and down. Let's see. When we're talking about retrieve information, obtiene información, what does it mean exactly? Are we talking about skimming? Are we talking about scanning? Are we talking about predicting? Deducing meaning from context? What does it mean? Okay, let's see numbers flow freely to play for a while to see numbers. It's quite interesting. Let's see. Okay, so far, most of people think or say that retrieve information is related more to scanning. Okay, scanning is winning so far, I guess. You have two options, remember that. Scanning is number one, definitely. And obtaining information is deducing meaning from context. It's something that you're saying. Okay, some people in the chat is telling me, no, it's skimming, inferring, scanning and deducing, everything. No, I don't think so, right? Okay, while you are answering the questions, I would like to remember you what retrieve information means in the national curriculum. In the national curriculum, retrieve information implies to the action of identify information, explicit information, but relevant information from the text. Yes, from the text, which has different parts, which has some other elements that support the idea, that support the information. Okay, so far, okay, we'll stop this. Ready? Okay, short countdown. 1 more minute to see. I will be explaining a little more, so you will be reflecting on it. Yes, retrieve information is when the student, identify information that it's explicit, relevant, yes, in the text. This information can be supported by other elements. You know, it's like, yes. And in 20 seconds, we will be closing this Menti to see which one is the right answer. So far, scanning is the king, definitely. But now it's between deducing and skimming, right? Deducing and skimming. Remember, retrieve information is the first step that the national curriculum suggests teachers to do when reading. Yes? Interesting. Okay, voting is closed. Nobody can vote. It's end. So now the correct answer is scanning and predicting. Are you shocked? Are you surprised? Okay, I want to read your comments in the chat, okay? I want to read your comments in the chat. Okay, listen to me. I was telling you that retrieve information is when the student receives all the information that can be explicit, relevant, sometimes implicit, yes, but it uses different elements, you know. Oh, you are like, wow, really? Is that the answer, predicting? Yes, of course. Remember, when we do this action of prediction during our sessions of reading, it's because the student is analyzing the title. When you let students understand the title, the student can predict what is going to be in the text. Yes, so prediction is part of retrieving information. When you add some pictures to your text, many of you are very keen on inserting a lot of visual aids on your text, right? And why do you do that? It's just because you like pictures? No, it is just because you know that pictures help students to understand. Yes, that's easy. So remember, prediction is the first step of retrieving information. Title, pictures, length of the text, type of the text. This very fast scanning that you do on the text is the retrieval information. It's this very fast information to get the whole idea. It's very fast. Yes, remember that. So you see, it's not that different, right? It's not that different. Okay, let's go to the next one. You ready? Okay, question number 2. Okay, now we're ready to answer question number 2. I guess this is going to be easier because we already know what's question number 1, right? Inferring and interpreting information is related to what? Inferring and interpreting. My goodness, someone immediately answered the question. Okay, that's perfect. I like it. Okay, inferring and interpreting. Remember that the first part, according to the national curriculum, is retrieve information. Retrieve information is when you identify information that is explicit, sometimes explicit, but it's relevant, it's important, help you to, these pieces of information help you to understand what is going to be the text about, because then you feel motivated and you read it very fast to get the whole idea, yes? But inferring and interpreting, what is it? Is that skimming? Is that scanning? Is that predicting? Is that deducing meaning from context? Okay, definitely deducing meaning from context is the key, right? Is the key. But let's see. What else do we have? Okay, I guess you are very sure of it. Okay, I will insert the shortcut down. You ready for the shortcut down? Yes? Yes, right? The shortcut down. Okay, it's fun. Deducing and interpreting, scheming. Okay, some of you are answering in the chat, so I'm very, very happy with that. I know that not all of you can enter into Mentimeter, so I'm more than happy that you are participating in the chat. Yes, thank you very much for that. Okay, you are saying scheming, deducing meaning from context. Definitely deducing meaning from context is the queen. And now I started the counting down to Z. Okay, deducing meaning from context is for sure related to inferring and interpreting, because in the national curriculum, the learning performances start with deduce, right? So I guess that was easy. But how about the next one? What is the other one? What is the second one? Is that skimming? Is that scanning? Evelyn Vanessa is telling me skimming is reading rapidly in order to get a general idea. Let's see, deducing and predicting, skimming and predicting, deducing. Oh my goodness, it's like a fight. Okay, in kind of 15 seconds, we will be closing the votes. Okay, I guess it's not moving any longer. So I guess it's right if we close it. Let's see the answers. Okay, you ready? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, finished. Yes, okay. So far, the winners, deducing meaning from context and predicting. I was very sure that you were right, you were sure predicting was part of retrieving information, right? Retrieving information. Let's see which are the answers. Deducing meaning from context and scheming, right? Scheming, why scheming? Can you tell me what scheming means? Scheming is when you go to the general idea or you go for the specific details of information. Can you tell me that in the chat? I will really appreciate it. I will be reading what you're writing, okay? I will be reading what you're writing. What is scheming? Okay, let's see. While you are telling me that, I am getting back to my presentation. Okay, so here is Mentimeter. Okay, so here is. So remember this. When we're talking about retrieve information is get this information. And sometimes we think that it's only, okay, I ask my students to read, and then I give them the questions, and then I correct the questions, and I finish. That is not shaping good or competent readers. Remember that there are some stages that we need to follow. The first one is the pre-reading is something that we usually do in ELT. Yes. Remember, this pre-reading, it's supposed to be I mean, it's very, very intrinsic related to motivation. If we don't do this, students might read for no reason. When you read for no reason, it's like, okay, I'm reading because my teacher asked me to do it, but I don't know what is going to be this useful for me. So remember, first, when you ask students to read, give them a question. Yes, because then you are giving the student a purpose. Yes, remember that. Okay, so let's go here. You know, sometimes it's very, I mean, it's not that easy because remember, when we're talking about information, there are some pieces of information that are implicit and explicit, right? There are some pieces of information that are explicit and implicit. For example, when we are adding some visual aids to the text, those are not explicit. Yes, that is implicit information that is helping you or supporting your idea from the text. So that is why it's kind of different to separate some of these processes of skimming, scanning, inferring, and interpreting. What we need to remember is that when we're talking about these stages, we are also talking about national curriculum. So when you are predicting, when you are skimming, when you are scanning, when you are inferring and interpreting, for sure, you are also aligned to the national curriculum, yes? But remember, one of our first tiny mistakes is this prediction omission, that we do not consider it in retrieving the information. And the other one that we do not usually work it hard on ELT work is the meta reading. What is the meta reading? Is this reflective reading? Is when I am reading and I make this stop to reflect on the reading, to reflect on two important aspects. Yes, remember this. Meta reading is reflecting on two important aspects when we are talking about a text. You can reflect on the very same information, you know, if you are talking about elections, so you can reflect on the information provided by the author, if you agree or disagree on that information, if you think that the author post is not right, is incorrect, or is incomplete. Yes, the information itself. And the other aspect is when you are analyzing the linguistic aspect of the information. If the style is correct, if the register is correct, if the information is coherence, is cohesive, you know, and there are two different aspects. Now, my question, and always my questions, and I will be sharing this question with you. I mean, I will throw in this question to you for you to reflect, okay? For you to reflect. When we're talking about meta reading and we're talking about English as a foreign language, in a pre-A1, in an A1, our reflections should be on the information itself or on the language. The information or on the language itself. I mean, me as a teacher, my meta reading should be focused on which one? What do you think? Okay, I want you to think about it. Don't worry, I won't forget. We will be discussing this later on, don't worry. But I want you to try to evaluate this part. Yes, I want you to evaluate this part, okay? So let's continue. I have some like very tiny, very specific ideas because I know that you are asking me, okay, yes, Kristel, we already know this. I mean, we know the national curriculum. Okay, now you are letting us know that there is a very aligned proposal between ELT Word and national curriculum, which is amazing. But what is the strategy? Could you please give me some examples? Because that is what I need. So don't worry, yes? For example, the national curriculum says that obtiene información del texto escrito implies a student is like identifying and selecting explicit information in the written text with a purpose. Look at this, very important, huh? Have you ever paid attention to this tiny but very important thing? with a purpose. How many times have you given a student a piece of text without saying anything? Just read. How many times? Quite often, right? Remember, you need to tell the student why is the person reading. So that is why motivation is so important. Remember, I mean, if I'm reading about elections, you need to make a reflection first and make a question to make students be interested in the reading. Yes, if you don't do this, the student is reading because you ask him or her to do it with no purpose. So we are not really fully covering retrieving information. Remember that. Retrieving information implies to make a student feel motivated by giving him or her a purpose, a reading purpose, to exploit the title. You know, when I used to teach in classes with the students, I mean secondary students, I love covering the text and only let them to see the title and the pictures around. And like a guessing game. Okay, what do you think is going to be the text about? The title said family. Okay, maybe. And what's going on with the family? Maybe family. Okay, it looks like a park. So maybe is leisure activities with your family. Okay, maybe. You see? So they are like curious about knowing what's going to be in the text. Yes. And you know, after you do this, it's quite easy to ask the question, because the question might be as simple as this one. Were you right or wrong? Do you want to know? Read the text. They were predicting. So as they were predicting, the question is just to ask them, are you right or not? Read the text. As easy as that. Yes. So for example, here, I am giving you some like ideas. Remember, the first one is to set the reading purpose. Yes, if you don't explain to the student what is going to be the reading for, not about, for, it's not going to be interesting for them. They will be reading with no purpose. Yes, so it's not a competent reader. And remember to use visual aids and attractive headings. Yes, sometimes we're very traditional on our titles, like my vacations, my first day of classes, welcome to schools, right? We cannot say no because I know that once in our life we have assigned this heading to our text, and we need to change and to be more creative and think in our students. I was like just talking to a friend about it, and the most important part while you are like designing your sessions is to put on your students' shoes. So that's gonna way to get their attention. Exactly. I mean, remember, your vacation, boring, right? So how about if you say, have you ever, I don't know, that depends, right? That depends. But I mean, try to be a little bit more creative with the title, because actually that is the main key. So look at this. What I have done here is like, actually I retrieved it from the British Council webpage very fast. And this is a very simple email in a level A1. And for example, let's try not to pay attention much to the content, but the title says a thank you email. So imagine that I am your teacher, I am covering the text, and I'm asking you, what is the title? And the title, of course, is a thank you email. And the question is, what do you think this email is for? To thank you? Oh, interesting. What do you think this person is thanking? I mean, thank you for what? Maybe because he receives a prize. Maybe because this person received a chocolate, ice cream, a present. Yes. So that is like, I mean, this title led you to exploit more. because you can ask questions. Okay, the person is thanking someone, but for what? Because the person the other person makes him or her a favor. I don't know, but you can, like squeeze the title as much as you can to get your students' attention, you see? So here, okay, so the title is a very good element in your text to exploit and to get your students' attention. What else can it be? You can go to their background, okay? What do you mean by background? Okay, wait a minute. For example, if you first you are worried in the general idea, and then you said from to subject. Have you ever written an email? For sure, students have written an email at least once in their lives, but in Spanish. But then it's going to be easier for them to understand some of these words. What do you think from means? What do you think to means? What do you think subject means? What do you think Tom XX means? Tom is the person who's writing, because when I finish my email, it says Kristel, so I am writing. So I can make questions about it. Who's writing the email? Tom. Is Tom happy or sad? Happy. How do you know that? Because the XX, because that's happy face in chats. Yes. So you can exploit even those things because it's part of their daily basis life. Yes. It's going to be quite easy for them to understand. Yes. Okay. So this is the first part. Obtain information. Yes, very easy. And remember, you ask them to predict, and after these predictions the students have made, then you ask them to read, to compare their answers with the real information. You don't need to come up with a difficult question of reflecting on life. No, as simple as that. Exploit the pictures, exploit the title, and based on that, okay, you think you're right? Okay, now compare with the answer. Compare with the text. And after reading, they would say, yay, I was right. I was right, teacher. I won. Yes. And that happened in real classes. I can assure that. I can assure that. Okay, let's go to the next part. Infer and interpret information. Yes. And this is a very important thing because actually the definition of this capacity in the national curriculum is quite long. It's a little bit extensive. And I decided to cut in very important parts of it. And the very first one is this one. The student built their sense of the text. My question is, who is building the text, the understanding of the text? The teacher or the student? The students, right? Okay, so if I present the keyword to students for them to understand because they don't understand, am I respecting this capacity? Let's reflect. So, should I translate the words for them? Should I identify the key words for them? Should I let him or her think? It's very important. I mean, from my point of view, inferring and interpreting is the most important capacity, not only in reading, also in speaking, because it's the only way students can really learn how to learn. And that is autonomy. And that is being competent. And that is being a competent teacher, because you are forcing your students to think. Do not underestimate your students. Try to, trust on them. They can do it little by little. Like New Kids on the Block, step by step, oh baby. Yes, they will do it, but you need to trust on them. Stop giving them vocabulary in advance Stop translating things for them. I mean, it's not good for their cognitive process because you are cutting that process tremendously. Yes, and remember this, look at this, I mean, the end of the text, okay? El estudiante construye el sentido del texto y a partir de estas construcciones, de estas deducciones, el estudiante interpreta la relación entre la información. So when you ask your students, as I said before, remember the first slide I showed you? Reading is to the body, is to the brain what exercise is to the body. If you do not train your students on thinking reflectively, they will never do it. Because instead of asking them to exercise, you are giving cookies. No, stop doing that. They're supposed to be able to create these meanings, to deduce these meanings. And your work is to create the correct questions. Your work is to use visual aids. Your work is to use the context. As I'm telling you in the strategy, tell stories, use their background, yes, to make them understand. Remember in the email, I was asking you like, okay, have you ever written an email? Definitely yes. So what do you think from means? What do you think to means? What do you think subject means? Maybe that is new for them in English, but not in Spanish. So you don't need to underestimate your students. Remember this. Make them think. Yes. And if you are in the proper level for them, I mean, if it's a real A1, if it's a real pre-A1, they will do it. They will do it. Okay. So look at this. Here I have an example. Okay. Here we are. Again with the thank you email. And here I have like some questions. Yes. It says, here we have the email. They have already answered some questions, some reading comprehension questions, you know, and now it's time for them to try to analyze some expressions. I will always encourage teachers to be focused on phrases, to be focused on chunks more than words by isolation, because then for students it's difficult to create their own ideas. But if they learn the phrases, if they learn the chunks completely, then it's easier for them to use them. And fluency is it's for sure going to be very, very easy. Yes. So for example, here I underline the word "you're very kind." But for example, what kind of food? But the teacher showed me the other day what kind of food. Why the teacher now is using "you are very kind"? You are very kind of food. Maybe the student is confused, right? So now is your time to enlighten your student because you need to create the correct questions. For example, is this positive or negative? What do you think? And the student might say it's positive. And why do you think it's positive? Because there is a happy face next to "you are kind." And that happy face is the same in English or in Spanish. That is my visual support. If you, I mean, "you are kind" is something good, Tom is telling to the other person, what other word comes to your mind? What other word comes to your mind? You are kind, you are a good person, you are very nice, you are very supportive. Okay, very good. So you write all the options the student is providing. And now you not only have "you are very kind" as new phrase, but also "you are very nice", "you are very supportive", "you are very sweet", you know? So now you have a very long list and students came up with this idea of the meaning by themselves. They do not need your translation or your keywords identification. Yes, it's something that students will do by his own. How about the other one? I hope you pass with good marks. I hope you pass with good marks. Teacher, what does it mean? And for example, in this case, I was like showing an example of telling a story. To pass an exam, we need to study. For example, for this English test, you need an A. If you study, you get an A. You pass the exam. If you don't study because you are playing video games, TikTok, esto es guerra, or I don't know, so you get a C. You don't pass the exam. You don't pass the exam. So you pass the exam or not? What do you think the student is going to tell you? Of course, Miss, yes, I pass the exam. I study. Yes? So remember, there are many different ways, and I am very conscious that these strategies take longer than giving them the translation or giving them the words, right? But remember, we need to shape our students to be competent. So can you imagine if this student receive another text with no teacher? This student knows that he's able to understand. He knows that he needs to analyze first the title, to see all the details, the happy face next to the word, that he maybe have used this very same format, but in Spanish, and with all these, I mean, we are having a very resourceful student, and for sure this student is going to be quite competent. Yes, and not only a competent reader, but also a competent person, because he will be able to read anything he wants because he knows how to read. Maybe he is not very eager to, maybe he's not like knowing all kind of information, but he will, because knowing to read is the most important part. Remember, learning how to learn. Yes, that is our task. Yes, so now we are creating autonomous students. We need to make them feel autonomous, independent. Yes, okay, and last but not the least, okay, just before going to the next part, I want to highlight the fact that inferring and interpreting, if you can see, is along the process. Yes, and it is something we need to train our students to do, because remember, it's the exercise of their brains. The way they obtain information is by reading and listening. And when they are reading, they can really go back and reflect deeply on the information. Nowadays, it's easy to see that for most people, it's very hard to read a book. It's very hard to read by pleasure for many different reasons, not only because of time, but also because of the habit, and that is a very difficult thing, because we need to be well informed. We need to be culture person, and reading is the best way to be a competent person, as I said, okay? So, reflexiona y evalúa, pay attention to this, la forma, el contenido y el contexto del texto. And look at this. El estudiante compara y contrasta aspectos formales y de contenido y emite una opinión personal. When we're talking about reflection in the reading, especially in the level our students have in our public schools, sometimes we have some issues, right? Like, how can I make them reflect on this? This is going to be very difficult. They will not have enough tools to being able to answer the questions. What kind of questions can I create, you know? Okay, first of all, once again, remember that there are two different aspects when we reflect. The first one is the information itself, and the second one is the language itself, the use of language, yes? What is the key for this part? Make good questions. I'm sorry for that. I know that making good questions is not easy. I know that because that was very hard for me to learn. And I am very sure that there are some more things that I need to learn, but I am on my way. I'm on my way, and I'm sure that many of you are on your way as well. But if we don't train ourselves on creating good questions, we will never learn. So we need to do it. Yes, we need to do it. So this is what I am proposing you to ask when you have, I mean, this kind of information. Okay, for example, here is wait a minute, is hi Susan, thank you very much for the birthday present. I really need a new computer game, so it is perfect. You're very kind. How are you? Good luck in your exams. I hope you pass with good marks. Speak soon, Tom XX. Yes. And the first question is, how do you think he feels with the present? Happy. Is that a good answer? For sure. Is that a very reflective answer or question? No. No yet. You know why? Because it's a closed question. How do you think? Sorry for that. How do you think he feels with the present? Happy. The answer is right, but it's not a very deep question, right? It's not like the student is really reflecting on the information. But the second question, it is, would you feel in that way if you receive a new computer game? He felt happy. Me and a computer game? No, I don't. No, I don't think so. Why? I don't like computer games. I like dancing. I like ice cream. Actually, that's true. I like makeup. I don't know. So I want you to notice that even the questions are not too elaborated. The student is able to provide an opinion on this in simple basis. How does he feel? Happy. Would you feel in that way if you receive the present? Yes. Why? Oh, because I love video games too. How would you feel? No. Why not? Because I don't like computer games. I like music. The student is expressing his opinion in simple basis. We are not, okay, but remember, what is very important here? We are really using in the text vocabulary and the input that is right, that is appropriate to your student's level. If you are asking questions related to, about a text that your students find hard, they will not able to answer any opinion, express any opinion, because that's going to be too hard for them. So remember that. Yes, it's very, very important to select the appropriate level to your students. So based on that, you can go deeper in the process of reading, but you know, the cognitive process of reading. Yes, we don't want them to read very long text with very difficult words, with very fancy topics, if they will not be able to think about it, if they will be able to be robots. If they're going to be robots, we'd better go down with the level. Remember that. So we are not fair if we are giving them a higher level, and they are not really using this cognitive regular process of reading. Yes, remember that. It's very, very important. That is those can be the questions regarding to the information in the text. As you can see, they are not supposed to be very complicated. Students will be able to provide some of their own answers in a very simple way. If you think that your students will not be able to answer by their own, another option that I usually suggest teachers is to create a multiple choice answer. I mean, at least for the first or the second month. So you can like create a question. Would you feel in that way if you receive the computer? Yes or no? Why? Because I like it. Because I like it too. Because I don't like it. Because I like, and the options, right? Dancing, painting, listening to music. And the student at the very beginning will tick the answer, you know, because the student is not able yet to express freely, yes? But remember, autonomy means that we need to trust on your student's capacity. So progressively, you have to let him, her go, work on their own. Yes, okay, if the first month I am giving him multiple choices, in the second month I will be giving him or her the chunk for him, her to complete. And in the third month, I won't give him anything, her anything. It's on your own, bro. You can do it. Go for it, sis. Yes? So that's the idea. Yes, that's the idea. What's going on if my aim is not the information, is to reflect on the language? Miss Kristel, we are in the ELT world, we are as a foreign language according to the national curriculum. So I want to be a little bit more focused on the language. That's fine. I mean, that is reflection as well. So it's good. And if you have been working on deducing correctly, you will be able to do this with no problem because the student will be able to answer this question. If you will be asking him, remember in the previous slide when we were like telling the story for him, for them to understand, you know, then you can ask him, what was the most difficult expression? Oh, miss, actually the most difficult expression was, I hope you pass with good marks. I didn't understand it well at the beginning. Now it's fine. I know what it means, but at the beginning was difficult. How would you remember it? Because now I hope I pass with good marks. That is my phrase now. I hope I pass with good marks. When you say, how would you remember it? You are forcing your student to create a strategy to remember it. Yes, maybe the student can tell you, okay, don't worry, miss, because I'm bothering my friend because I know that my friend is like not going well in the course. So I am always telling him, I hope you pass with good marks. I hope at least you pass. And you know, it's fun. I don't know if that has happened to you once, but I remember when I was like sharing or you know, working on these difficult expressions, what I usually do in my sessions was like making jokes using these expressions with the students, and they start like bothering them in a respectfully way, of course, but they were bothering using the expression. So then the hardest expressions turn into the easiest one. Yes, but remember, force them to create a strategy. How would you remember it? Because I'm going to relate it to my friend, because I'm going to create a picture with a letter 20 next to it. I don't know. Yes, force your students to create their own strategy. Another question, what was the easiest word? If you know that a word was easy for your student, means that you can go up the level, isn't it? So why don't we take advantage of it? If they can do it, go for it. Okay, that was the easiest question, the easiest word, the easiest expression. How would you use the same meaning in a fancier way? You are very kind. You're very kind was very easy for me, miss. Actually, I knew that word before. Okay, that's great. So, but what other phrase come up to your mind to use in a similar situation? You are very kind of you are the best, and you are forcing the student who already knows that expression to go deeper, to extend their lexis, you know? So if you notice, what you are doing during this process is creating the right questions. Yes, you are not telling him or her how to study, what to study. You are telling him or her to think. You are requesting that. Yes, that's a little bit of the idea. Remember, ask the right questions. Asking the right questions will be always, always very helpful. Yes? Okay, sorry, there was some distractions for me. Okay, so remember, these are some of the tips. Remember that I was sharing with you some of the technological tools we can use to ask some questions regarding something, but I wanted to be more focused on showing you how to create these questions. Remember that in this context, I know that it's very hard for our students to create this interactive way of working, but we can use a video, we can use an audio, we can create a beautiful word, you know, to share with your students by WhatsApp, you know. So there are many, many different ways, but remember, the most important thing is make the right questions. Don't go superficially over the information. Go deeper. Make your students think. Yes, and if the student feels so comfortable because okay, this phrase, this information was easy busy for me, okay, how would you say it fancier? How would you say it better? Yes, so that's the idea. Yes, that's the idea. Okay, so let's move on. And important things. Important thing. My goodness, I'm on time. I'm happy with that. Okay, so here is. Remember, the very important thing you have to remember when reading, especially to create more competent readers, is to select the proper text for them. Why is it so important? Because then you don't need to go over words, you don't need to go over grammar, you don't need to go over and over again to make them understand the simple ideas. You can go deeper on the information and you can go deeper on the reflection if you select, if you pick the right level for your students. If you know that there is a text for A1 that you feel is not going to be, or it's going to be a little higher for your students, so adapt it. Adapt it to be able to go deeper on this cognitive process. Yes, remember, insert some new words for them. More than words, insert phrases, insert chunks for them to remember. Work on those chunks, work on those phrases for them to remember. Remember that the idea of this reading is also to acquire lexis, you know, so they will be able to use it in the close future. So remember, encourage students to be competent learners by selecting the proper text for them according to their level. That's tip number one. Tip number two, promote reading strategies that promote autonomy as well. Yes, remember, create the questions, make them think what works for you, sweetie. What is good for you? I don't know, visual aids works for you, pictures, words. Remember that I was telling you what would you do to remember the word? I will relate it to my exam. That is your strategy. I will remember my friend. That is your strategy. I will remember the story you tell us, teacher. That is your strategy. Yes, remember that. Yes, that is your strategy. Let your student think while reading. Remember that it's quite interesting when we are talking about reading, because of course we are like very focused on asking questions to see if they have comprehend the text and the information, and that is fine. And that is why I am not really focused on giving you questions related to the information, because I am sure that that is something you know how to work with very well. But we need to learn how to create these questions for make students think, how to make students deduce meanings, how to make students deduce information. It is not just where, what, who. I do love the why. Love the why. The teachers who work very close to me knows it well. I'm always asking why. Really? Why? And 5 times why is the best way. Yes. But remember, let your students think. Do not underestimate your students. Try not to give them a list of keywords. On the contrary, I will recommend to select 2 or 3 phrases, more than words, phrases for them to use and use over and over again to be part of their own language. Yes. Remember also that there are some pieces of information. I mean, I am reading that some of you are really worried about the reading comprehension itself, and it's fine. And as I was telling you, students will be able to analyze the text, but first they need to understand the text in the language level. So the first level is this one, to understand the phrases, to understand the author intention. And as soon as they will be able to do this, the information is going to be easy peasy. Then the reflective questions that we have been working on that are very hard as well. And then they will be trained. Remember, it is not to teach them to understand the text. Once again, is to teach them to think. It's to train them to learn how to learn. And if you if you help your student to identify their own strategies for reading, because if you only teach one strategy, it's not going to be good or enough for everyone, because they are individuals and they learn differently. So what I encourage you to do as teachers is like respect their students' autonomy. Some of them will be more visual, some of them will be more kinesthetics, some of them will be more audiolingual. So that will depend on them. Okay, so just make your student think. Yes. And the most difficult task for teachers is make the correct questions. Make good questions. Stop asking what, where, who. Okay, it's fine. We need to make those questions to know if they at least can extract some pieces of information from the text. But it doesn't say anything. If you go into a debate, you will be noticed that people do not really concentrate in facts. They start relating information and expressing their opinion freely with good arguments, right? But my point is, if we teach our students how to be good readers, they will be able to keep learning forever. And I don't know if they are able to enjoy reading. You know that unfortunately, and it's because PISA results, unfortunately in our country, definitely reading is not the most popular habits in the country. We can change that. We are agents. We are agents of change. We can do things be different. We can make things happen, So teach our students, teach our students to learn. They need to learn how to learn, to be autonomous. Yes, that is what we need from them and from you. Okay, so I guess, yay, kind of time. And I hope you have enjoyed the presentation. I hope I have covered some of your questions and some of your doubts. And I know that now is time for the questions, isn't it? Hello?
Yes, yes, Miss Kristel, sorry, I got some issues with my microphone. Sorry.
Don't worry,
All right,
Kevin.
got it, got it. Thank
Hi.
you so much. Hi, hello, good afternoon, good evening. Thank you so much. It was like amazing everything that you already shared with us. I was paying attention and everything that's so right. I mean, that's amazing. Well, let's see. We have some questions from the audience. Let me tell you about the questions. I got a question here. It says, due to the level of students, do you consider it is important to translate the test?
Sorry, I was speaking with
Yeah.
my microphone muted.
Okay.
That actually was one of the important tips. If I mean, why would you ask your students read an English test in Spanish? It's like there is no real purpose of it, right? I mean, if you want your students to read a text or to go over a test because of the information, maybe because the information is quite important for him, so do it in Spanish. Don't worry, but don't use it in your English class because it's useless. You are not promoting the English language if you are using Spanish in a session. So that is why my very first recommendation is for you to select the right level for your students. So you don't need to translate and they will be able to feel competent, because that is very frustrating for students. If you present a text and a student is not able to understand a word, then the student feel, I am terrible at English. And it's not true. It is just because you pick the wrong text for him or for her. So let's be careful with that, because that is something that can mark their lives forever. Yes. So let's try to be very responsible and very careful with it. If you need to translate a text, then the text is not the correct one for your students. Hope I answered the question.
Yeah, sure, totally. Yeah, I think I agree with you. I mean, the task is also so important because most of the time, motivation is so important for us to develop with our students. If they feel motivated, of course, everything will be nice. Another question that we have from the audience, from teacher Marie Rodriguez, says, how do students build comprehension this kind of virtual classes?
Actually, during this pandemic,
Mhm.
I mean, it's like the pandemic highlighted the importance of shaping our students in autonomy,
Uh-huh.
because we have been always teacher-centered in our classes, because most of our
Yes.
classes are traditional ones. So
Mhm.
if the teacher is not there, students can learn, and that is not
Mhm.
true.
Mhm.
I mean, of course, they need us. Definitely. We are an important element in the system, definitely, because we have to create the correct questions. We have to design the session. But the student learning process has to be autonomous, because we design the correct session, we design the correct sequence, we select the proper material for them. So nowadays, we are forced, teachers are forced to promote autonomy in our students. We have to. And I know it's going to be kind of difficult, but you want it or not, it's happening because our students has no choice on it. I mean, our students are like learning by their own in their houses, especially in English, because most families in Peru do not speak English.
Exactly.
And students are like learning by their own. So please, teachers, stop being mama gallinas with their students. We are not doing right in that way. It's like you as a mother having a 40-year-old kid living with you and you are pampering him all the time. Is that what you want from your students? Don't you want competent, autonomous individuals that go into the society and can provide strong opinions about the war and the community? I mean, that's what we want. So I know that it's not going to be easy, but first of all, if we have the time, that's the very first thing I would like to share with you. If you have the time to interact with your students by WhatsApp, by Meet, by Google Classroom, whichever the resource is, my recommendation is to be focused on these questions. Stop using this time to make the reading again, answer again the questions. You send the text, you send the questions. After 2 days, send the answers. They self-correct. And then when you are with them, ask the questions. How will he feel? How would you feel in that situation? Why? That is what we have to do during our short time of interaction with them. Stop using PowerPoints with the very same information. Stop using very fancy formats with very great digital technology because we are just showing off. Sorry for that, but that's true. We're showing off. You know, competence 29, the T competence, do not demand teachers to be technological. Demands students to be technological. Yeah, exactly. And what are we doing? Are we doing that?
No.
We do not use wikis. We don't let them lead a Zoom meeting anytime, never. Or yes, how many of you have done that? So remember, autonomy is something that we need to start doing more often in our sessions. And not only for reading, but for everything. The time for reading comprehension has to cover questions, reflective questions, not to read together. That's crazy, my goodness. I want to kill myself with that. We're wasting time. We are wasting the parents' money because of the internet, because of the electricity. I mean, it's like if you are with your students, talk to them, reflect with them. That's what we are supposed to do. I hope I answered the question.
Yeah.
Well, very passionate.
Yeah, I agree with you totally. I mean, well, I already know that most important is right here is the interaction, that we get confidence with our students to speak, to say something, and use the language step by step. I'm pretty good. I'm pretty agree with you also because this kind of virtual class is also a chance for us where our students can develop this kind of autonomous learning because we already know that all information it's in internet. So students, it doesn't matter the kind of internet that they have. I mean, I'm talking about connection or not. They're so connected with English at all, with Facebook, with social medias, news, and so on. So our purpose is just to guide them, as you already said. But sometimes it's so difficult because for parents and teachers, it's so complicated to leave this kind of comfort zone. But I'm pretty sure step by step, they will already know that students is, I mean, the focus of learning. Most parents, they usually think that if the teacher is not doing anything, well, it's a bad teacher. But indeed, we have to prepare activities where the students can develop many different tasks. Of course, with technological resources, if it's possible, because they have to make it, not us. Well,
Exactly.
we can do it. All right,
Of
but
course.
Of
as
course.
modeling, you know, as
Exactly.
modeling, but not
Exactly.
like, okay, I can do this and you, haha, you can do it. It's
But
like not.
we can start with maybe with short videos. The students can make short videos with the cell phone, try to interact, to say something, and step by step they can develop more difficult tasks not related to technology. Of course, it's a process, but we, as you said, we have to believe in them. We have to believe in them. I'm sure they can do it. This kind of generation that students we have, they can do it. I'm pretty sure they can. All right, let's continue. I see here another questions from all the teachers.
Okay, great.
Um, okay. Oh, interesting. Miss Flor Eta says, Miss Kristel, could you give us another? All right.
Kevin, please.
Yeah.
Kevin, please.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, well, but I think it's. I'm talking about the question, and it is like the curriculum and the MCRF, not related. I mean, talking about
Okay.
English purpose. I mean, talking about reading, right? Because as you already presented, the national curriculum today of reading, right? Like obtiene información, infiere y reflexiona. How is the? It has a comparison. I'd say some comparisons about the MCRF.
Okay, you know, something that is quite interesting related to the Common European Framework is like the processes, I mean, the cognitive processes for reading are like the same. As I was telling you, I mean, telling all of you in advance, is we usually change a little bit the term because of the system, you know, that is an international system, we're a Peruvian system, but I mean, the process is something that happens in their students' mind. So you want it or not, I always say that you want it or you don't, it will be happening in their students' mind. So, I mean, we're just hitting them with different names. The terms are kind of different sometimes, but the processes that are considered in CEF are like exactly the same that are represented in the national curriculum. But I have to say that the reading comprehension part does not have any grammar structure inserted in the competences nor in the learning standards, just because we are more focused on the type of text, on the kind of information, you know, because that is the reading about. I mean, we are not learning grammar through reading, we are just reading to comprehend. So if that is the purpose of reading, we're just like getting more focused on the register, the style, the format, you know. So it's kind of alike. If you compare the language functions that are inserted in CEF for the levels, you will be easily find them in the learning performances from the national curriculum.
Wow. Thank you so much, Ms. Purcell. Well, let's stop here with questions. Before I stop talking, let me tell you that was an excellent webinar. I'm very happy for this because in my personal way, I'm so interested about reading for researching. So it was like, wow, excellent. I got it. I understand much better everything. Thank you so much for that. So please don't go out. Please don't leave us. Stay with us.
Okay.
Until the end, please, Miss Kristel.
I will.
Thank you so much. All right, let's continue. Let's continue with another part. Please, Zir.
Yeah, I'm here, Kevin. Thank you so
Yes, thank
much.
you.
On behalf of English teachers in Peru community, dear Kristel, thank you so much for sharing your time and knowledge with us. It was an astounding presentation. Thank you, dear Kristel. Now we're going to continue with some information. This is our team, administrative team. Vamos a ver ahora a cada uno de los administradores quienes han formado parte de la organización, de los webinars, también quienes forman parte de la administración de los grupos de WhatsApp, de todos los proyectos, iniciativas que se desarrollan desde nuestra comunidad en beneficio de todos los docentes del Perú, de docentes incluso de diferentes países, a quienes les mandamos saludos el día de hoy. muchos de ellos que se conectan desde México, Ecuador, Chile, Colombia, Argentina, Puerto Rico, y muchos países más. Miles de gracias por estar siempre con nosotros. Queridos administradores, yo les voy a pedir que por favor, en cuanto los mencione, tal vez puedan encender la camarita para dar un hello por ahí, para saludar, para que los reconozcan también. Estoy mostrando en este momento el gran equipo que me acompaña: Miss Kimberly Linares de Acari, Miss Ángela Salazar from Arequipa, Teacher David Cuadros from Ayacucho, quien también es parte del equipo administrativo, Teacher Jaime Luis Quispe Villa from Cajamarca, Miss Sulamita Chukden from Cajamarca too, Miss Oshin Flores from Camaná, Miss Catherine Novoa from Chiclayo, Miss Diana Chafloc from Chiclayo, Miss Pamela Salazar from Chiclayo too, Miss Nefti Fortes from España, she's in Tenerife. Teacher Kurt Vilela from Huancayo. Miss Miriam Córdoba from Huancayo too. Miss Maite Flores from Huacho. Teacher Rubén Rumi from Huánuco. Miss Evelyn Pita from Iquitos. Miss Mayra Ríos from Lima. Miss Julia Millones from Lima, Miss Daisy Apolinario, Miss Julisa de la Cruz, and Teacher Gabriel Bayona from Lima, Miss Lilia Espinosa from Lima, Teacher José Ortega from Puno, Miss Tabita Anaya from San Martín, and Teacher Kevin Laura from Tacna, and obviously me, Miss Mariela Crondorena from Puno. Creo que merecen todo este gran equipo de corazones que se han unido para poder emprender este tipo de proyectos y para poder llegar a todos ustedes, teachers, con la finalidad de poder aportar un poquito en nuestra formación pedagógica, en nuestra formación profesional, para poder enfrentar estos tiempos que son tan difíciles para todos nosotros. Y por supuesto también agradecer a todos esos corazones. Ya vamos a ver a todos esos ponentes, grandes profesionales y seres humanos que han aceptado la invitación y han compartido durante estas semanas. Son exactamente 7 semanas, son 13 webinars los que hemos dado durante esta temporada de verano. Bien, desde ahí me acompañan teachers de repente en los comentarios con unos aplausos grandes para todo el equipo administrativo que siempre está con todos ustedes y que va a seguir a través de los diferentes canales que manejamos en la comunidad English Teachers in Peru. Bien, continuamos entonces. Thank you. Ahora sí, continuamos con una muy buena noticia de parte de todo el equipo administrativo. Aquí de repente me pueden ayudar. Angelita, ¿estás por ahí? Angelita, Miss Tabita, Miss Catherine.
Aquí estoy.
Si tenemos las camaritas, los micros, Miss Evelyn, que está por ahí, Miss Mayra, todos los que puedan, por favor, participar. Si les estamos por ahí, encendemos las camaritas. Vamos a explicarles un poquito rápidamente antes de mandar el enlace del Exit Ticket. Vamos a compartir con ustedes una gran noticia a pedido de muchos docentes, en realidad, a pedido de muchos miembros de la comunidad, nos han solicitado, ¿no? Hemos iniciado en el mes de febrero, como ustedes pueden ver ya en pantalla, nuestro grupo de estudio, Miss Yuli. Enciende el micro, Miss Yulicita, la vemos aquí. Hemos iniciado en el mes de febrero nuestro grupo de estudio. Se ha desarrollado, Ángela, de repente nos puedes comentar, se ha desarrollado el temario del Ministerio de Educación tras una convocatoria que hicimos en la que pudimos contar con la participación de aproximadamente más de 350 docentes, porque había un compromiso que era la participación activa de cada docente. y se ha tratado de avanzar con todo lo que es las diferentes subpruebas que entran dentro de la preparación para el examen del ministerio, ¿no? Que es razonamiento lógico, matemático y el de especialidad, el de inglés. Entonces, aquí de repente nos van a comentar un poquito de qué trata, porque aquí todas nuestras administradoras en WhatsApp han estado al tanto y aportando con materiales exclusivos, recursos exclusivos, con análisis, casuísticas, todo ello completamente gratuito. Lo hemos hecho a través de nuestro Facebook, la convocatoria, y lo hemos desarrollado en nuestro WhatsApp. Entonces, de repente nos podemos comentar un poquito, Angelita, sobre cómo ha pasado este mes de febrero con los grupos, en los grupos de estudio y lo que pudimos compartir con los teachers.
Durante estos meses, ha sido ya febrero, parte de marzo también, y parte de enero, hemos estado trabajando con los teachers, como decía Marí, absolutamente todos los materiales con respecto a lo que es el nombramiento y también ascenso. El compromiso de los docentes es siempre estar participando, estar atentos, brindar sus respuestas, ya que tenemos cierta interacción parecida a lo que viene a ser un curso de clases normales y regulares. También han habido preguntas en las cuales los docentes han estado interactuando durante todo el día. Nosotros también hemos estado apoyándolos en resolver sus dudas, en brindarles materiales adicionales, en apoyarlos en todo lo que nos sea posible. Los materiales, como estaba nombrando Marí, son exclusivos. Y también hemos añadido algunos materiales que corresponden a los exámenes pasados para continuar con esta interacción con los docentes y para que además sea dirigido a lo que se busca, ¿no? Que es lograr el nombramiento y el ascenso.
Así es, querida Ángela, realmente ha sido un trabajo arduo de parte de todo el equipo administrativo en WhatsApp que ha estado al mando de cada uno de los grupos de estudio que se han formado. Hay lindas evidencias que de repente el día de hoy no las podemos mostrar de los teachers mismos, sus organizadores visuales, los trabajos que han hecho, de cada una de las sesiones que se han realizado a través de nuestros grupos de WhatsApp. Y bueno, abrimos la convocatoria, estimados teachers, vamos a abrir la convocatoria ahora. Tenemos exactamente 100 vacantes, ¿verdad, Angelita?
Así es, 100 vacantes.
Y tenemos ahí el formulario de inscripción. Vamos en este momento a hacer la invitación. De repente nos puede ayudar, teacher Ortega, con colocar el link, fijarlo en los comentarios para la convocatoria. A los 100 docentes que estén interesados en participar de este grupo de estudio y preparación para desarrollar el temario en Minedu, con recursos exclusivos, análisis, casuísticas, completamente gratuito. Vamos a enfocarnos en la especialidad, en el temario de nuestra especialidad, el área de inglés. Pueden inscribirse los 100 primeros docentes que se inscriban, que estén registrados. Comparta, please, teacher Ortega. Ahí está el link, es bit.ly/etip nombramiento 2021, que es válido para nombramiento, ascenso y contrato 2022-2023. Pero por aquí de repente Miss Maite nos ayuda, o Miss Yulisa. Hay un perfil que es el que sí, son algunos requisitos que nosotros solicitamos para que podamos validar. Lo primero es que en el mismo formulario van a verificar que se les solicita algún documento probatorio. En el caso de contrato, su ficha de inscripción de contrato, y en el caso de nombramiento, algún documento que pruebe que son docentes nombrados que realmente van a postular para ascenso, ¿no? En el caso de ascenso. Y en el de contrato que realmente se hayan inscrito, ¿no? Que tengan la ficha de inscripción para este examen que se va a dar este año para nombramiento y contrato, ¿no? Son requisitos que se están solicitando para tener la certeza de que vamos a llegar a docentes que realmente necesitan de esta preparación. Yo les pediría, teachers, de repente algunos sí tenemos la posibilidad de pagar por un curso así y algunos tal vez no. Entonces, si ya nos estamos preparando, de repente pagando en ese momento esa posibilidad de poder llevar un curso así para que se puedan inscribir. Entonces, los 100 primeros docentes que se inscriban, creo que ya lo fijaron, sí, sí está fijado. No lo puedo visualizar, creo que sí, ya está fijado, ¿verdad? Entonces, a los primeros docentes que se inscriban, vamos a los 100 primeros docentes y que cumplan con el perfil, que sean seguidores o miembros de nuestra comunidad. Nosotros ya estamos más de 3 años aquí, que participen en nuestros eventos, cumpliendo con todo ese perfil. Entonces, nosotros lo vamos a considerar y los vamos a invitar, les vamos a enviar un privado, les vamos a enviar un correo de confirmación. El link va a estar abierto hasta el día miércoles. Hasta el día miércoles la inscripción para estas 100 vacantes. Bien, perfecto, Angelita, ahora sí podemos continuar.
Vamos.
Queremos agradecer de todo corazón, Angelita, a todos los ponentes que hemos tenido, ¿verdad? En toda esta ronda de webinars. Angelita, si nos recuerdas algunos de ellos.
A ver, tenemos a nuestro queridísimo Gabriel Bayona, quien también formó parte de la comunidad. Tenemos a Miss Alicia, quien ha estado con nosotros, al profesor Jaime, a los 2 años. A ver, permítame un ratito. Tenemos a los profesores. Ay, Mari, si me ayudas un poquito, por favor.
Sí, estamos ahí, a Miss Alicia. Tenemos ahí a Miss Alicia, que ha estado con nosotros también, apoyándonos. Un saludo para ella. Muchísimas gracias por todos sus aportes, por compartir sus conocimientos con nosotros. A Teacher Jaime Quispe Villa, a Mr. Enrique Liñán, que también ha estado con nosotros. Tenemos también a Miss Fiorella, que ha estado con nosotros. Tenemos también a Miss Ashley, Leonardo Mercado, Kevin Laura, que también es parte del equipo administrativo, Miss Leonor Marín y por supuesto Miss Kristel Oyola. También tenemos aquí a Michael Navarro. Mil gracias a todos ellos por hacer posible todo este ciclo de webinars. Esperamos que haya sido de su agrado y que, bueno, hayamos podido aportar con un granito de arena en su formación profesional, queridos teachers. De hecho, se van a venir muchas cosas más, siempre con el mismo objetivo de poder avanzar juntos, de podernos apoyar, de poder seguir adelante y mejorar las estrategias, la enseñanza que damos a nuestros estudiantes, porque es por ellos todo esto que hacemos, ¿no? Y por la vocación que sentimos como maestros. Bien, continuamos.
Con la siguiente parte, que es el exit ticket.
Listo,
¿Ok?
Miss Mayra nos ayuda con el exit ticket.
Sí, Miss. Buenas noches, queridos profesores. Bueno, estamos mostrando el exit ticket. Recuerden que está disponible solo por 20 minutos. Entonces, les voy a dictar el exit ticket, que también va a ser compartido por el grupo en el Facebook, en los comentarios. Ya creo que lo van a poder visualizar en unos minutos. Y les voy a dictar. El exit ticket es https://cutt.ly/e mayúscula, T mayúscula, I minúscula, P mayúscula, X, I. ¿Ok? Entonces, creo que ya han copiado y que ya se ha compartido en los comentarios el exit ticket.
Así es, muchísimas gracias, Miss Mayra. Sí, ya está siendo compartido el exit ticket. Le pedimos que nos ayude. ¿Ya está? Sí, ya está fijado el exit ticket. Está fijado para que lo puedan ingresar. Para que puedan ingresar y por favor llenar la asistencia del día de hoy. Recordemos lo siguiente, la constancia, para poder acceder a la constancia, deben de haber participado en todos los webinars de todo este ciclo, son 13 en total. Se va a considerar un mínimo, el mínimo, creo que se ha enviado esa información a sus correos electrónicos también, junto con los materiales de los ponentes, es el 80%. Teacher Ortega, no sé si me corrige, me parece que el mínimo es el 80%, o en este caso de los 13, 10 asistencias como mínimo a los webinars para que puedan acceder a la constancia. Está así, es 3 en romano. Son 3 I's en el exit ticket, por favor, no se van a olvidar, es el número 13 en romano. Y para que puedan acceder a la constancia, tiene que haber este mínimo de asistencias cumplida, ¿no? Y esto se registra a través de cada uno de los formularios que ustedes han venido llenando en cada uno de los webinars. Han habido alrededor de más de 800 o 900 participantes en diferentes webinars, en cada uno de ellos, así que es bastante información que vamos a ir revisando y procesando, porque tenemos que revisar la asistencia de cada uno de ustedes, porque la idea es que el total de horas pueda servirles también a ustedes para su expediente, para su currículo, ¿no? Entonces, se los vamos a enviar, calculo yo, en una semana, la siguiente, a la próxima semana, el próximo fin de semana tal vez, ya estamos enviándolo, nosotros vamos a comunicarlo a través de nuestros medios, a través de nuestras redes en Facebook, y vamos a continuar. Continuamos entonces también recordándoles que tenemos todos los, Angelita, no sé si podemos continuar en el siguiente slide. Recordándoles que tenemos también todos los webinars que hemos hecho desde el año pasado hasta el día de hoy, cada uno de ellos que tiene información muy importante, temas realmente muy buenos, muy útiles para nosotros. Deben de suscribirse en nuestro canal de YouTube, ahí tienen ustedes la dirección. Ya tenemos más de 1,600 suscriptores en nuestro canal. Y tenemos ahí todo el material visual de nuestra comunidad, todos los webinars están ahí colgados para que los puedan ver quienes se perdieron alguno en su tiempo libre. Realmente creo que es de mucha importancia para nuestra formación profesional. También tenemos videos o materiales que vamos a ir subiendo también. Ahora que estamos iniciando ya con la estrategia Aprendo en Casa, de hecho vamos a empezar a elaborar otros videos que seguramente también los van a ayudar en su práctica pedagógica ya con todos sus estudiantes. Bien, ahora sí, continuamos entonces con lo último ya. El agradecimiento a toda la comunidad de English Teachers in Peru por habernos acompañado durante todo este tiempo. Muchísimas gracias. Thank you so much, dear English Teachers in Peru. Por toda su preferencia. Ahora sí, todos los administradores podemos encender, por favor, nuestras camaritas para podernos despedir. Perfecto. Ahora sí, estamos gran parte del equipo administrativo el día de hoy que ha participado o que participa siempre, ¿no? En todas las actividades, en todos los proyectos que desarrollamos desde la comunidad para todos ustedes, teachers. Entonces nos despedimos. Voy a empezar como me veo yo por aquí, por la izquierda. Teacher David Cuadros. Un saludito para que lo reconozcan, teacher Miss. Catherine Novoa. Miss Yulisa de la Cruz. Miss Mayra Zulmit Rengifo. Miss Pamela Salazar. Miss Oshin Flores. Miss Ángela Salazar. Teacher Kurt Vilela. Miss Miriam Córdoba, Miss Daisy Apolinario, Teacher Jaime Luis Quispevilla, Miss Maite Flores, Miss Julia Millones, nuestra querida Julie. Teacher Kevin Laura de la Cruz. Teacher Rubén Rumi. Miss Sulamita Chukden. Miss Evelyn Pita. Miss Lilia Espinosa. Miss Kimberly. Teacher José Ortega Cerruto, que siempre está detrás de la transmisión. Miss Diana Carla, que no le podemos ver en la camarita, pero sabemos que su corazoncito está ahí. Muchísimas gracias a todos English Teachers in Peru. Hasta una próxima oportunidad. Bye.